Over the last 5 seasons, I've set up countless amount of bikes with tubeless tires. I was in a love and hate relationship with that technology. I've praised for tubeless tires online. I love the benefits that they was offering to me and the consumer. But here, fast forward to 2024, and I came to the conclusion that I will not be setting up any of my future road bikes with tubeless tires. Let's get into it. What's up, guys? My name is Charles. Welcome to Spoke the Truth, a show where I talk about the cycling industry, some products that I've tried, and in a bit more in a slower pace, conversational way with you guys, talking to you in the comments down below about a subject that matters to me. And I would just want to share my full, honest, unfiltered experience about something. And in today's episode, we are talking about tubeless tires. Like I've mentioned in the intro, I've probably set up 7 or 8 of my past road bikes with tubeless tires. I was praising tubeless tires for a lot of reasons, but now I just don't see the point anymore when it comes to the choice of how do you inflate your tires. So in this video, I want to give you guys my top 10-ish reasons why I'm done with them. I don't see myself build any bike with tubeless, with sealant in the future on the road, because with gravel and mountain bike, it's another story for another video. But specifically for road bikes, I just want to give you guys a bit more my state of mind, all the reasons that just doesn't cut it for me. There's too many of them. Number one, the installation it's a hassle. So your tubeless tires that you buy, whatever the brand, they need to be a bit more robust. The tire is usually a bit like thicker. They're more difficult to mount onto the rims. I've had countless of nights just trying to mount tubeless tires on a rim that was just not compatible. The tire was always just too difficult. I was destroying my hands, my arms, my upper body, just trying to get that tire on the bead or on the rim, actually. This one reason, when you're in your garage, you're in the bike shop, it's not much of a big deal. It's a one-time issue, you think it is. And that's until that you have a puncture, an actual puncture that your sealant's not going to fix. You're on the side of the road. And if you're not able to take off your tire from your rim and put it back in with a tube, you're just stranded on the side of the road, and here goes your day. And here goes $100 of emergency cab ride back home or back to a bike shop to help you out. So just the fact that the level or the difficulty to mount the tires is up a notch from regular clincher tires, it's just, for me, is a downside. Second reason is the sealant maintenance is a nightmare. So first of all, even here in my beautiful garage, every time I was setting up tubeless tires, I was making a huge mess. Sealant will go on the floor, sealant will go onto the cabinets, sealant will stuck into the sink. You need to find a place to dispose that old sealant, and it's always just messy. And it's always everywhere. It's always a pain to manage. You need to use a lot of paper towels or shop towels, and you're just going to put all of that sealant onto your hands, onto your body, onto your clothes, and it's annoying. And what's also annoying about the sealant is that it tends to dry up over time. So if you don't use a bike for 2-3 months, or even if you use that bike, sealant's drying inside. And so you always have to think about topping off your sealant. So when you forget about topping off your sealant, you think you have sealant, you go out for a ride, and any tiny little puncture or cracks up to your tire or tear of the tire, well, the sealant is not going to do a job, and then you're still going to end up with a puncture. And then you're on the side of the road with your tires that are difficult to mount and dismount. And then you take them, try to take them out, and then your hands are all dirty on the side of the road with sealant because you're trying to put a tube in. So that's another reason. Sealant maintenance for me is annoying. Let's talk about the sealant failure. So when it works, in theory, it's amazing, right? There's a tiny little hole onto your tire. The air in the tire is going to start to go out through that hole. And while the air is going out, it's going to carry that sealant. And at some point, the sealant will just block the hole, and then it's going to be fixing the hole. But meanwhile, while it's fixing itself, it still burps out some sealant drops all over the wheel that is spinning behind you. So one thing that I quite don't like is that sealant will go to your lower back, it will go to your saddle, it will go to your seat post, and it will go to your frame seat tube as well, at the back of it behind the wheel. And one bike that I've had, my Windspace, my blue Windspace, is now stuck for life with sealant that has not been dried up quickly enough. So I did not see that puncture. The sealant went onto the frame, and now it's stuck there, and I was not able to take it off. I used a lot of different cleaning products. I was not able to. I've tried to like scratch it out, but then I was a bit scratching the paint. I had to solve that bike with sealant stuck to the frame, potentially forever. So this is it's a big downside. And when it comes to also those holes that the stylists try to fix it, when it's too big, well, it's just going to burp sealant all over the place, and it's also not going to fix the issues. So you get dirty, your bike's also is going to get dirty with sealant, and you're stranded on the side of the road with a tire that has a crack, not a crack, but had a slice a bit too big for the sealant to fix itself. So then what's the solution? You just put a tube in. So you still need to carry tubes. Another reason is the higher cost setting up a tubeless tire. So every time you look at the pricing of tires, the tubeless version will always be a bit more expensive than the clincher version. And then, yes, you don't have a tube, but you need to buy sealant. If you do the math, if you buy your sealant in small quantity, it's definitely going to be more expensive than buying a tube for that. Like one tire, one tube is exactly like 100 millimeters of sealant. So it's approximately about the same. But then if you buy your sealant in bulk, you buy those really, really big bottles, then per tire or per wheels that you set up tubeless, it might be slightly cheaper than a regular tube. But overall, tires are more expensive, and then the sealant is another expense to have up front. Editing Charles here, you also need to consider that you do need an air compressor at home, or you need to have like a pump with a canister and a chamber, which those are quite expensive. So your regular bike pump will not do it. You would not be able to, maybe if you're lucky, but to mount like a tubeless tire onto the rim, just pumping, it's not gonna work. You need an air compressor, trust me. But when it comes to the wheels now, these days, 2024 and moving forward, pretty much every single carbon or performance wheel on the market is tubeless compatible, which is the right way forward. It's great to give options to the customer that wheels do both. But personally, if I have the choice when it comes to choosing my next race wheels, I would 200% goes for hooked rims, not hookless. If the salesman trying to sell you hookless rims, he's probably getting a better commission or a better rate from that company. So, but that conversation with hooked rims versus hookless rims is for another time. Another issue with tubeless tires, I would say, and I've had the experience, is with the risk of burping. So what is a burp? Basically is when it comes to your cornering and then you hit a bump or you hit something, a big rock, and it's going to put so much pressure to the tire that it's going to leave the rim for a fraction of a second, and then a whole lot of sealant is going to go out of the wheel, and then technically the tire should go back and sit itself. So when this is happening, you will most likely lose a lot of air when that burp or when that bump's hitting you. So that's sort of dangerous, because if it de-rim the tire for half a second, it can also de-rim the full tire off the rim. It did happen to me, cornering, hitting a bump, that I lost a lot of sealant. I almost lost control of the bike as well, because if your rim sort of touch the pavement, that's going to be super slippery and you will fall. Now we need to talk about the weight of your full system. So if you think about it, you remove the butyl tube off the wheel, the tire. Usually butyl tubes are like 100 grams. If you remove that, you think you're going to save weight, but technically, if you remove that tube and you need to put sealant, if you put 100 millimeters sealant at 1 gram per millimeter, while you take off 100 grams, you add 100 grams of sealant. But then over time, when that sealant starts to dry, as we spoke in the downside number 2, you top off sealant and you sort of lose the number or the amount of sealant that is into your system. So if day one, you put 100 mil or 60 mil of sealant, let's go with 60. It's a bit like a more recommended number, which is still a bit low. But then after 2 months, if you add 40, and then you're now at 100, and then 2 months later you add another 40, and then you're at 140. So now like you're climbing the weight more than the butyl. So talking about the weight, and these days, butyl tubes is something of the past. And I'm sure you've heard about TPU tubes. We're gonna go talk about them later into this video, but TPU tubes are a game changer for its size and for its weight. A TPU tube from RideNow is about 35 grams, and you have 25 grams, and you have 19 grams tubes. So if you just take off your butyl tube, you had that TPU tube, you're saving a lot of weight. And the tire, their tubeless tires also need to be a bit more beefy. Beefier tire means more rubber, means more weight. So clincher tires are lighter. And if you pair a clincher tire with a TPU tube, this is the lightest system you could do. Another downside is definitely the limited options of compatibility. Something that a lot of people oversight is the combination of rim and tire combo. Basically, not all tubeless tires will fit all rims, and specific tires will fit specific rims. There's a lot of different standards in terms of which rim your bike came with. Is it first hookless? Is it with hooked? If it's hookless, which brand has the right model to fit? It could get a nightmare for somebody to know which one fits. And if you're not a cyclist who really love to dig about knowing their full equipment, to what extent, it will lead to some cyclists buying a secondhand bike. They don't really know that which tire needs to go on that rim. They still set it up tubeless with the wrong tire. Basically, it's just the fact that not all tires fit a rim. For me, it's a high risk hazard that somebody out there in the world is putting the wrong tires on and will cause a crash and will cause accident because the tire might deram or it might just not fit. So another big downside is compatibility. It's technically, as all tires should fit all rims, which is the case with a clincher tire and rims, but hookless and tubeless, it gets super confusing. Another reason I've realized over the years is tubeless tires need the top off of air slightly quicker than a regular tube or TPU tubes. If you ride a lot, it means like you need to put a few PSI every few days if you want to stay at the number that you want. Personally, when I've switched to TPU tubes, basically the air is trapped in there and can be a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks without topping it off, and it stays at the same PSI. So it's another thing to keep in mind is that if you are in tubeless, well, you most likely need to top off some air because it does has like tiny little leaks that tubes don't have. Another big downside, especially for me and my friends here living on the northern hemisphere, is it gets cold 6 months per year. And when it comes to that colder season, from October, November, December, we're still riding outside, usually here in Quebec. And then like from March, April, we're outside, but it gets cold. We always and often ride near that zero, that freezing temperature. So near zero, sometimes 5 degrees, sometimes 6, sometimes even less. And the problem with tire sealant is it actually freezes inside of your wheels. So again, if you're out there in the cold and you have sealant into your tires, you hit debris on the road, it do a tiny little hole into your tires, while the sealant will be frozen inside of your tire. So it will not burp out and it will not fix that hole. So then you'll be stranded on the side of the road, needed to fix a tire, to put a tube in extremely cold temperature. It takes a lot of dexterity, and you cannot really do all of that process with gloves on. So you're on the side of the road, it's 5 degrees, and then you have to take your gloves off. First, you're stopping riding, and then your clothing's definitely a bit on the lighter side. So you are just freezing, and it happened to me a couple times where I had to just put a tube because, yeah, on the winter, there's a lot of debris on the road. Most likely your tire is going to have like tiny little scratch and tiny little sharp rocks that's going to make a hole inside of them. So it's just a scenario that you should avoid at all costs. And the last reason why I'm done with tubeless tires is there's just better options. And the better options is TPU tubes. And I'm not here to talk about one brand specific and try to sell you TPU tubes here. I just genuinely think that those RideNow TPU tubes, that they are exactly the same cost as a butyl tube. So you can get them on Amazon, you can get them on Panopodium, on AliExpress for about like $10 per tube. If you go to your local bike shop, they're gonna charge you $12 to $15 to $30 for a butyl tube that's going to be heavier, that's going to be less puncture resistance. Those RideNow tubes, literally, since putting them on, I've not had a single puncture, not a single problem with them. They're easy to take off one wheel and reuse that tube into another wheel. It's just easier. It works. It does not take any space into your saddle bag. You can carry 2 or 3 tubes for the space of one butyl tube. So they just give you more option to fix your bike on the side of the road. If you just rely on tubeless tire and sealant and you stop carrying tubes because you think you're tubeless and you cannot have a puncture, this is a disaster to happen. I've seen so many cyclists be like, I don't have a saddle bag, I don't have a CO2 or an inflator in the tubes because I'm tubeless. And I was like, dude, you can still puncture your tubeless tire. The only advantage with tubeless is you cannot pinch flat. And to be honest, like the rides and the roads that I ride, they're in very bad condition. They're very, very bad. And I do ride with lower PSI in my TPU tubes, and I don't pinch flat. If you ride 28 mil tire above up to 32, there's so much volume into that TPU tube that allows you to ride at lower PSI and still be comfortable and avoid those pinch flat. So for me, I'm 150 pounds on my 28 mil tires with TPU tubes. I will run them at 75 PSI. And when it comes to my 32 mil tires, I will run them at like 65 PSI. Not a single pinch flat this whole season. I've hit plenty of potholes, plenty of cracks here with the bad roads that we have, and not a pinch flat happened to me in a full season. Not even a leak, not even a problem. So all of that being said, just give me reasons in the comments down below why I should get back to tubeless. I don't see them. I have the perfect garage to mess up with tubeless tires. And I choose to buy my TPU tubes off Amazon. It's so much less hassle. If I want to just use a tire for another wheel set, or I want to just change something, I don't have to make a huge mess in the garage. At this point, I'm just going to stop rambling about tubeless tires. I think I made up my point. If you want to fight in the comments down below, more than welcome. Just let me know your experience about tubeless. Are you going back to TPU tubes and regular tubes? Are you a diehard tubeless fan like I used to be? Yeah, just let me know in the comments down below. That's it for me for today, guys. If you enjoyed this though, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you aren't already. And my name is Charles, and I will see you guys on the road or into the next video. Peace.